Hello, good afternoon all.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. This is Dennis at the announcement desk. Good afternoon, sir. We'll begin shortly, sir.
Okay, no issues. I'll wait.
Yes, sir. Just a moment.
No problem.
Greetings for the pleasant afternoon, all of you, dear participants. Welcome back to the post-lunch session of the 5-day national level FDP on Heritage Management, a Business Perspective, jointly organized by St. Joseph's College, Trichy, and Attil Academy. We strongly believe and we are happy that the first two sessions of the day went on well, one by Dr. Arun Raj and other by Dr. Praveen Durai, besides the inaugural session by the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bharathidasan University, Dr. Selvam. And now we are heading into the technical session 3. Here we have Dr. V.P. Sriraman, Area Chair and Associate Professor, Bharathidasan Institute of Management, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. Let us all walk through the highlights of his impressive career by going through his resume. Dr. V.P. Sriraman is the Associate Professor and Area Chair at Bharathidasan Institute of Management, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. Sir completed his PhD in Gandhigram Rural University and MSc Physics from Annamalai University. Sir has more than 24 years of work experience that includes 2 years in industry and 22 years in academics. He teaches subjects such as financial reporting and performance analysis, corporate finance, corporate valuation, design thinking, creativity and entrepreneurship, financial planning, wealth management, and ethics and corporate governance courses at BIM Tiruchirappalli. He had been a part of more than 100 development programs and offered training in areas like accounting, finance, design thinking, innovation, and general management for middle and senior level executives of various organizations that includes JSW Steel, VA Tech, Ashok Leyland, Equipment Construction, Amco Battery, and many more. Dr. Sriram is in the academic boards and research committees of various educational institutions, and he has presented and published papers in national and international conferences, journals, besides contributing book chapters. His area of interest include financial accounting and reporting, corporate finance, entrepreneurship, corporate governance, creativity and innovation, MSME, HR and general management related topics to such as people skill, personality development, stress management, and leadership. Briefing such an impressive and inspiring career of excellence, I now take the privilege to invite Dr. V.P. Sriraman, Area Chair and Associate Professor, BIM Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, for his presentation and lecture on Heritage Management, Access to Finance. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for this very impressive introduction about me. So thank you all. So welcome all of you to this FDP. I hope I am audible. Am I?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So this session is on access to finance. So let me give an overview as to what I'll be talking to you for the next kind of 2 hours. Okay, so in between, if you want, you can always stop me in between if you want any break or whatever. So you can please do so because I don't know about the schedule that you have with you. So with whatever the time that's been given to me, so what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about access to finance. I'll just give a brief background about what this is for. Okay, so when you actually look into the heritage management, So that's what we are talking today. There are a lot of cultural and heritage focused industries and professions that are there in India. And when you see them, many of them are vanishing day by day. I can actually give you a list of them. Of course, in my presentation, I will do that. So my concern was, though, how do we, or what do we do? Since we are talking about culture, we are talking about heritage, and we have a lot of, age-old, traditional businesses, business clusters, products. So, and even the people who are doing with that, their entire livelihood is actually vanishing. So I was deeply, regretting about that. So while I was doing my PhD work, so I did my PhD work in the same area, which is access to finance. So I thought of taking few actual clusters, right? So to look at as to what is happening in those clusters. So I've actually taken this cluster in Tanjavur and Swamimalai. It's a bronze icon cluster. And this is also maybe 1,000 years old sort of a business or a trade. And there are a lot of issues about finance, though the issues are there throughout the entire thing on management, but there are a lot of issues on financing. So I was just interested in that. I thought I will submit that to you to have an idea about what I am talking about, right? Let me share my screen. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it visible? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. So what is access to finance? So access to finance, of course, is one of the very pet topics of World Bank. There are a lot of papers that are being written in the area of access to finance. So this is the ability of individuals or enterprises to obtain financial services, including credit, deposit, payment, insurance, and other risk management services, right? So individuals and enterprises receiving financial services. So whenever any enterprise needs credit, needs loan, there must be some sort of a mechanism which provides them with a loan, right? It can be a short-term loan, it can be a long-term loan. There must be a mechanism. And there must be a mechanism to deposit, payment to be made, insurances, right? So today we are talking about microfinance, microcredit, micro insurance, right? Insurance and other risk management services. So those who involuntarily have no or only limited access to financial services are referred to as the unbanked or underbanked respectively. So there is a section of population which is still unbanked and which is still underbanked. So though we have a lot of government schemes, so through the government schemes, now we have actually increased the number of people who are in the banking, ambit. There are still around 20% of the population which is still underbanked, right? They have not received any banking services, right? Which is very important. So when you talk about access to finance, it is actually intended to support and stimulate economic growth by providing financing to firms where the market is failing to do so. So in many occasions, whenever we talk about the market is looking for profit, obviously. Any business will and have to look for the profit. And there is a challenge as to whom you can give the money, right? So the scale also differs. So there are people who wants at a very, very smaller scale, right? They want only 5,000 rupees. They want only 10,000 rupees as loan. On the other hand, you also have the markets where they want a loan in crores of rupees. So obviously the banking system, obviously the lenders, so they go for the big tickets rather than they are going for the smaller tickets. So then many occasions, these marginalized, let me use the word, these marginalized people, they do not get the financial services. Whatever is they wanted, they are not getting the financial services. So when you see from the access to finance point of view, they do not have the access to whatever the finances that they need. Okay. So that's where we are getting this challenge. Access to finance also enables the startups, right, micro, small and medium enterprises to grow. So whenever these enterprises grow, as all of us know, micro enterprises, they are composed of the huge number of enterprises that we have in India. And whenever there is a growth there, obviously, right, so there will be some economic development. And there are a lot of studies which suggests this. So evidence has shown that financial access promotes growth for enterprises through the provision of credit to both new and existing businesses. It benefits the economy in general by accelerating the economic growth, intensifying competition. So whenever you have a lot of players in a particular area, obviously the competition will be huge. Whenever the competition will be huge, you can look for the quality. Of course, there are some sectors where you don't have that much of competition today. Say, for example, when you talk about big corporates in telecom. So telecom today has now more become a duopoly. You have only two major players. You have Reliance Jio, then you have Bharti. So these are the only two players, more of a duopoly, because Vodafone Idea is already wants to shut the doors, right? So it has gone to bankruptcy courts. It will be. Then BSNL is long dead. So there are no other players. So when we talk about competition, only if you have the huge competition, then only you can actually expect better pricing, better products, better quality, and better services. So whenever the number of enterprises are going to be more, it actually benefits the economy, number one, by accelerating the economic growth. Because the more the number of enterprises, more would be the employment. If more would be the employment, the more would be the people getting money. When more are the people getting money, the more they will spend. The more they spend, the more is going to be the market. So when the supply is going to be more, obviously the demand will also be more. So it will actually accelerate the economic growth, intensify the competition, as well as boosting demand for the labor, right? You will have a lot of employment growth. So the incomes of those in the lower end of the income ladder will typically rise, hence reducing the income inequality and poverty. So we can also read this from the development economics point of view, where it actually reduces the income inequality and poverty as well. So this access to finance is a so very important topic, that providing finance actually helps the people to come out of the poverty and to come out of the inequality in the society today. As I said, there is a close connect between MSMEs and access to finance. Access to finance is a key constraint to the growth of micro and small businesses across the economies. I'm not talking only about India, but across economies. So data from 119 developing countries shows that MSMEs perceive access to finance as the most significant obstacle, right? There are also other obstacles like technology, and you have, trained manpower, you have, marketing, right? So you also have other obstacles, but the major obstacle, or the first one is the access to finance. So this actually hinders their growth. In India, where MSMEs account for about 99% of all enterprises that we have, comprising 63 million MSMEs across various industries and diverse geographic locations. So is the importance of this MSME. And of those MSMEs, there are a lot of MSMEs who are in the area of heritage business, and our interest is there. So we will slowly move there. So before moving there, let us try to understand what this Access Finance is all about. What is that we are talking about? Then we recast it on, I will take two cases today, two real cases, right? So I'll take two cases and demonstrate to you as to how those businesses are getting affected, right? Then we will come back and tie them together. Okay. So what does access to finance mean? There are various dimensions to access. One dimension is availability. Whether the finance is available, and if it is available, in what quantity it is available, right? It must be available to the people who actually need them. That is more important. One is availability of. Second, at what cost? So at what price is the finance available, right? Including all costs, also opportunity cost, say of having to wait in line for a teller. That is also an opportunity cost, right? So at what cost it is available? So as you know, there are a lot of people who are actually going for money lenders and, and their entire life is getting shattered. I am talking about the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. I am not talking about the affluent people. For affluent people, bank will go to their doorstep, give the money. Whether they will pay you or not, they will still do it. That is why you will see a lot of NPAs mounting in our banking system, non-performing assets. Rather, I am talking about the bottom of the pyramid people, where these are the people who don't have, assets to show as a collateral, right? Who are not educated. Okay. Even if they are educated, not educated to the extent that they will understand the terms and conditions of banking. Okay. And these are the people who are not touched with technology. Maybe they may have some cell phones today, right? And maybe they may have some Jan Dhan accounts. So thanks to the government. So apart from that, they don't have any great idea about this technology. Okay. So these are the downtrodden people, and for these people, nobody is ready to lend any money at all. When it is lent, then at what cost it will be lent? So cost also matters a lot. And the range of services that you give. Will you also provide insurance? Will you also provide, savings, deposit, right? Will you also provide all other financial services which are actually needed, right? So it is very important. Or put differently, reliability, right? Is it available when needed or desired, right? More important. Whenever it is needed, you are supposed to give the finance, right? Is it available when it is actually needed? So even in today's context, whenever we talk about these small, landlords coming to agriculture, these landlords, and they don't have, I'm not talking about landlords, bigger landlords who are having a lot of, land. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about these smaller ones who do not have money even to buy the seed. Of course, they have their own seed banks, but even then they go to the money lenders, they get the money for the seed, they get the money for the fertilizers, right? They get the money even to pay for the labor, and they grow the entire crop, and whatever the crop, whatever that they have grown, everything the money lender takes and he sells it off, and he gets every money, and he will reduce whatever the money that he has given to that poor farm person, and whatever is remaining is what will be paid to him. So even today it is happening. So reliability, whether it will be available when it is needed, when it is desired. And second is convenience, ease of access, right? Is it convenient? Or should they go for, say, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers to the bank? Or is it available on their doorsteps, or at least some half a kilometer if they can travel? Are there any, post offices even, right? So we are not restricting ourselves only to a bank. So even the post offices, they also give savings, they also give deposits, they also today give micro insurance, they also, lend money to some extent, not to a greater extent, right? So whether we have anybody, any of the government machinery, right? Whether do we have, cooperatives and cooperative banks? Today, as all of us know, the government of India has started one separate department called the Department of Cooperatives. Right? So previously this was with the Agriculture Ministry. Now we have a separate ministry for the cooperation itself. And when you look at these all sort of cooperative banks as to what is happening to PCB Bank and a lot of other banks, right? So we see that this cooperative as a sector need to be strengthened and developed, right? So it's becoming very important. So the convenience. Third is the continuity. So can it be assessed repeated, right? It is not a one-off sort of a finance that you need, right? It's a kind of a continuity. Whenever you need, is it available, right? So today we are talking about SHGs, that is self-help groups. Whether these self-help groups, now they are linked with the banks also. So this SHG bank linkage, right? How it is working, right? Whether these self-help group members, do they have enough money with them, or how the money is getting circulated among them, right? Is there a continuity? Whenever you need money, is it available to you at whatever the quantity that you are asking for, at the lower cost, right? And with the flexibility. So is the product tailored to the needs of this particular person, right? Flexibility. So maybe in rural India, so the people will save on a daily basis, and they want a loan for a particular purpose. Say, for example, they want to buy a sheep, right? A goat or a sheep. So do you have, loan for that? Or no? So which means that it is more of kind of a flexible, right? Whether the flexibility is also built in. So whenever we talk about access to finance, so these are all the dimensions that we need to actually think for. And let me show some, some figures. So this is the available data show that the banking services, they vary greatly. When you look at the GDP per capita, right? So this is the recent one. You can see US, there is 56,200 US dollars is the per capita GDP. You can compare that with Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and India, where India is at the lowest, $2,191 is the GDP per capita. Okay. And when you look at the population per branch, you can see that India is having the highest. Obviously, we are the second populous country in the world. And when you look at the area per bank branch, right? So now, of course, you have this is a square kilometer area. So India is a densely populated country, and that is why you have the lowest number in that. So which means that when you look at the banking facilities, right? So these are the banking facilities. Again, you could see. So whatever the data that I have given here is not very recent, but still nothing has changed very drastically. When you look at the banks, we have 90% of the banks. You have 30% or rural regional banks. Right? These are the banks, right, where the distribution of deposits. Predominantly 90% of the deposits today are with the banks, 7% with the cooperatives, 2% is with the post office, right? So that's how predominantly it is. Of course, this is not only in India, predominantly in every economy, banks are the ones which are taking a lead. In Colombia, you have the cooperatives are doing really well, better than India. So when you look at where do the unbanked save, the unbanked save in informal savings, right? Cash, money orders, right? Signed checks, clubs, loans. It's around 20% there, and 28% in Mexico. And of course, in India, it is much, much higher. No financial savings, again, India is much higher, right? So these are some of the numbers, right? Whether there is a demand for credit is low and not always met. So what population of respondents applied for a loan? So this is a World Bank study. So from this study, it is saying that people who applied for loan is only 3% in India, against 14% in Mexico and 15% in Brazil. And 97% of the population, which means the respondent, they are not even applying for bank. So which means that banks are not ready to lend their hand, or these guys do not want to go to the bank and get the banking services. So which means we need to ask why. when you actually look into, did the banks award the loans? When you look at the approved of 100%, 80% of the application is rejected in India. Only 20% is getting approved. Now, kind of you would have got the answer as to why 97% of the respondents are not going to the bank at all. Because bank are not ready to give credit to these people, right? Then the question is why? What is the problem with these people? What these people are, right? So we need to drill down. So the lack of financial access limits the range of financial services and credits for household and enterprises. So poor individuals and small enterprises need to rely on their personal wealth or internal resources to invest in their education and businesses, which limits their full potential and leading to the cycle of persistent inequality and diminished growth. So when you actually look into these downtrodden people, right, they need to rely only on their personal wealth, and they don't have huge personal wealth or internal resources, right, which means whatever the resources that they have in their households. So which means that they could not invest more on the education. They could not go to the schools. Rather, they need to go to a company and work for the company, right? Or go to the field, go to the agricultural land and work there. This is actually limiting the full potential, and this leads to the cycle of inequality. So the access to finance, that is the possibility that individuals or enterprises can access financial services, should be distinguished from the actual use of financial services. So these are the two things. One is access, one is use. On the one hand, we have seen that only 3% of the people are going to the bank and 97% of the people are not even going to the bank. Does it mean that there is an access but there is no use? Right? So we need to look at that direction as well. So when you actually look into the actual use of financial services, because non-use of finance can be voluntary or involuntary, right? Voluntarily, they do not want to use. See, I have money. Why should I go to the bank and request for money? So that's a voluntarily, I'm a non-user. But involuntarily, also, I could be the user. I don't even know that there is something called as a bank, and the banker will give me money, right? Maybe I also do not know that involuntarily. So the voluntary non-users of financial services have access, but do not use the financial services, either because they have no need or because they decided not to make use of such services due to anything, due to cultural, religious, or any other reasons. It can be any reason. So that's what this particular slide will tell you. So when you look at the population, right? So you have users of formal financial services and non-users. And when you look at the voluntary, that's what now we have seen. No need. Second, cultural, religious, or any other reasons for not to use. But when you look at the involuntary exclusion, that involuntariness is what is actually creating a lot of problems. One is insufficient income or high risk, right? So that is one reason. They do not have sufficient income, which means that the banker has to take huge risk, right, in giving credit to them. Number two, discrimination, right? So banks simply do not want to give to these downtrodden people, right? It's just a discrimination, right? In any sense, discrimination in any sense. Third is contractual or informational framework, right? There is no contractual information, which means that these guys are not educated. Then on what basis you will actually apprise them on their credit worthiness, right? So there is no information which is available. There is no background check that you can actually do on these people, right? Right. For us, we have background check, right? So we have a score. We have a credit score, all of us, right? We can have a credit score. But where is the credit score for these people? So the bankers do not have the information on their background, the kind of assets that they have, right? These guys are not educated properly, and these are all the issues due to which the banks think that it is costly, and these people are living at a very, very remote place where you do not have the access. And for the access, maybe you have to have your bank branch, and maybe the cost benefit, when you look at it, is costlier than whatever the benefit that you will get. So there are so many issues that are there. and the price and product features, right? So whatever the products they are asking for is very, very small in token size, right? When we talk about savings, they are talking about hundreds of rupees of savings, not about lakhs of rupees of savings, right? Any feature for that matter. So these are all the various, dimensions by which involuntary exclusion is also happening. So these people, they do not have access to the financial services. When you have to actually measure whether they have the financial services or not, right? So this is essential, right? Only when you measure it, right? For strength, you need to strengthen the link between the theory and whatever the evidence that we see. So currently the main proxy variables that measure the financial access are number of bank accounts per 1,000 adults. Now, when you see India, due to this Jan Dhan, now the number of bank accounts that are there in India is very, very high, right? It was somewhere around 45, 48% covered. Now we have almost reached 70 to 80% of the population has been reached. Number of bank branches per 1 lakh adults, right? So, but still we are lagging in this. So we need to go to those places where people are there, but banks are not there. And of course, this is the space where all those cooperative banks or those RRBs, regional rural banks, so they have to play their role here. But when you actually look into these banks, there are so many issues surrounding these banks. So, and the percentage of firms with line of credit. So, which means the percentage of banks who wants the credit, who are getting the credit, whether they are larger or smaller firms. So, these are some of the pointers which will tell as to how the financial services are there. Involuntary non-users we talked about, they want to use financial services but do not have access due to a variety of reasons, as we have already seen. First, they may be unbankable because their low income prevents them from being served commercially, right? So you cannot serve them commercially or profitably because they are basically low income, right? You cannot charge them more by any of the financial institutions. They may be discriminated against based on social, religious, or ethnic grounds. They may be unbanked because of the contractual and informational networks, as I said, such as high collateral requirements or lack of information from credit registries. They prevent the financial institutions from commercially serving these non-users. The price or features of financial services may not be appropriate for the population groups for them, so which we already have seen. So from here, access to finance, we go to a space called access frontier, where the access frontier is the maximum proportion of the people that has access to a particular product or service at a point in time. And the frontier may shift over time. So which means that the number of people who are having bank accounts today, there's a shift from today to the next, say, 5 years. The number of people who are getting, say, insurance. So there is a change from one period of time to the other period of time. The number of people who are getting loan, there is a change from time to time. So which means that, so this frontier is going to shift over time as a result of technological and competitive changes in the markets. Of course, today we are talking about fintech, that is financial technologies. So we are going, we can actually use those technologies for all these unbanked poor also, right? So there are some methods. So we are talking about machine learning, we are talking about artificial intelligence, right? So there are a lot of methods that are being talked about today, whereby you can even look at the iris, that is the eye of those people. So these people are basically uneducated, but your eye will tell you what is that, right? So that's the mirror of your mind. So from the change in the iris itself, to some extent, you today, that's what technology is telling, but the change of this eye movement, that itself will tell you about what he is having in his mind, whether this person will pay you money or not. They say, they claim it is possible, right? They are using a lot of technologies for that, right? They are using artificial intelligence, right? They use biomimicry, using a lot of things today. So the access frontier approach distinguishes between users and non-users of a product or service, and segments non-users into 4 groups. So all these non-users now are segmented as per the Access Frontier into 4 different groups. Number 1, those who can use the product or service but choose not to. Those who can currently have the access, the product or services, but who do not yet, right? So they are lying within the present access frontier. So these 2 people, they have the access, but they are not using it. So the third is those who should be able to use the product or service within the next 3 to 5 years based on changes in the features of the products or service or the market respectively, which means these are currently the non-users. Going forward, they might use this, right? So which is lying within the future access frontier. So this is based on the features of the product. Maybe the product they are seeking for, asking for is not available. Once it is available, they will definitely use it, right? So those beyond the reach of the market solutions in the next 3 to 5 years. So you can't reach them for next 3 to 5 years. So this is access frontier. As I said, we already talked about measuring access to finance. Of course, this is relatively difficult because relevant data are not readily available. This is not only in India, but throughout. A lack of consistent cross-country data on the use of financial services has led to the use of number of deposits and loan accounts as a simple measures of financial access that we have seen, although it is imperfect measure of financial access. So all these things are trying to point out that there are a lot of barriers to finance. That's what they're all trying to say. There are barriers. So in many countries, financial access is still limited only to 20 to 50% of the population, excluding many poor individuals and SMEs. There are many reasons which will explain this, especially among the poor. So one reason could be the poor lack the education and the knowledge needed to understand the financial services that are available to them. So the first is knowledge front. So the solution here could be you have to make the people educated, and that's a huge task. Of course, the government is doing its best. Any government will do its best towards this area. Second, loan officers might find it unprofitable to serve the small credit needs and transaction volume of the lower income population. That is why today we are talking about MFIs, that is microfinance institutions, right? So these microfinance institutions are basically the ones who will serve them or who can serve them, right? So you would have heard about this Bangladesh movement, right? Grameen Bank towards this microfinance institution, right? So there are a lot of microfinance institutions in India who are doing their fantastic human service to these people. And the concept of SHG, self-help groups, right, where we are talking about the banks linking with these people through these self-help groups. This is also one mechanism by which, so these people who are otherwise unprofitable because they need small credit needs. So these small credit needs can be, addressed through the microfinance, micro insurance, right? So through these financial services, it is possible, and it has been happening quietly. Additionally, banks may not be geographically accessible for the poor since financial institutions are likely to be located in the richer neighborhoods, right? So you may not have the bank branches. So that is why people are today talking about technology, where even the see now it's we are not even going to the bank, right? All of us who are having bank accounts, we hardly go to the bank because banking services are available over internet. They are available on the cell phones today. So the bank is with you. You need not go to the bank. Bank will come to you. But so this technology, can we use this technology to reach these people where they need not go to the bank, but the bank will be there. Of course, for that, people need to be educated, right? So there are a lot of places where you have the kiosk. For each and every village, you have few kiosks. So they can come to the kiosk and they can do all these banking, but still it is yet to evolve. There is also a concept of correspondent banking where even the postman, right? He goes into the village, or he collects the money and come back to the post office, and whenever they need the money, he can give it to them, and you have to maintain a logbook for that, a passbook for that, right? So, and technology can be useful here, beneficial here. So there are a lot of things happening in this space also, right? So poor are also burdened by the lack of collateral. So they don't have the collateral. Basically, they may have some livestock with them. They may have some hens. They may have some pigs, or they may have some goats, some cattle, then goats, cows, right? Only these are the kind of collateral they have. So they don't have a huge collateral like a house and things like that. They don't have. So there is a lack of collateral. So there is an inability to borrow against their future income, because you also cannot predict their future income. You cannot do kind of say DCF analysis, discounted cash flow analysis with them. It is not possible, because their income streams tend to be hard, and you can't track it, and you cannot predict it. So these are all the barriers which actually restrict the access to finance, not only the access as well as the use of finance to these downtrodden people. So in the light of lack of financial access to the poor over the past few decades, developments in microfinance institutions have managed to provide financial services to some of the world's poorest and achieve the good repayments. So they even say that there is 100% repayment. When we now talk about mounting NPAs on the banks, so those mounting NPAs are not due to poor people who could not pay the money. So these are due to the richer people who could not pay the money back, right? So there are many business houses, right, which are getting a loan, hundreds and thousands of crores. They are the people who are actually not paying, not the poor people, right? Poor people are actually paying 100% of their money, right, whenever it is supposed to be paid. So from that angle, the riskiness that you are taking from the poor people is much lesser. But the problem here is that the scale. So the scale of operation is very small. These people are uneducated, and they may not know English, right? And India as a country is having multiple languages, right? So these are all adding to the complexities. But still, there are banks which are actually doing yeoman surveys in these sectors. Okay, of course, if time permits, I will show you a few videos as to what is happening in the women. Say, for example, when we talk about women, there is an additional constraint and a challenge for the women, because normally women, we have our own cultural stigma which are attached with the women, that they are not taking, or they won't take part in the ancestral property. Of course, today it is changing, right? So on their own, they cannot act. They have to either ask their parents, or they have to ask their husband before doing anything. They are not free to do their business. So though the women are very hardworking and they have a lot of uh, talents with them, but still it is not possible for the women, or even the women who are in the business today, they are actually finding it harder to raise the money when compared with men, right? So that distinction and that discrimination is also there in the society today. So there are still work to be done to build inclusive financial systems. This includes taking advantage of the technological advances. So we are talking about MLAI today, that is machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? So we are talking about them today. We are talking about robo banking today. Okay. So in developing financial infrastructure to lower the transaction cost. That's how you could lower the transaction cost. Now, the banking has changed a lot today, right? So we have, even Geo, you have GPay, you have, Alibaba, you have Alipay, okay? So, and you have GeoPay, GPay, GeoPay, you have Paytm, right? You have a lot of other people who are the intermediaries that have come. There are correspondent banking, which is possible. and there are payment banks that are there. So there are a lot of changes that are happening in the banking sector today. So people are trying to take advantage of technology in developing the infrastructure, which will lower the transaction cost, encouraging the transparency, right? So today we are talking about, cryptocurrencies. So government trying to come out with its own digital currency, so that the digital currency can be, just like that given. Very, very recently, I think the Prime Minister came out with this what is that called? Any idea what is that called? Government of India very recently came out with the e-rupee. So where it is all talking about, you are giving the kind of a message, SMS, and you can just use that to pay anything, to pay for the schools or to pay for the education, right? So which has come. So there are very many innovations that are taking place today in the space. Okay, so encouraging the transparency, openness, and the competition to incentivize the current institutions to expand the service coverage and enforcing potential regulations in order to provide the private sector with the right incentives. So I stop here for the access to finance. If there are any questions, I'm open. Are there any questions? Or can I go ahead? Hello?
So yes, sir, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I hope this session, I think I spoke for around, now it is 5:32. I spoke for around 45 minutes. I hope I have given you a solid foundation as to what do we mean by access to finance. Now I am trying to marry this access to finance as a concept to our heritage and heritage management. So that's what I intend to do now. So when you look at Indian heritage, so India, as all of us know, is the birthplace and the cradle of some of the world's major cultures and religions. So India, we should be very proud that we have the history ranging back to millions and millions of years. The distinguished, we have crossed so many yugas, right? So every yuga is so many number of lakhs of years. So we have crossed so many years, and we are all actually a very, very rich society from culture and heritage point of view. So the distinguished cultural liveliness of the various world heritage sites in India allure historians from across the globe to study and learn from its rich culture and traditions. Right? We are very, very rich in this. The myriad shades of traditions and rituals have been contributing to the Indian culture over many thousands of years. There are numerous places of Indian cultural heritage that speak volume about the same, especially Indian Arch Cluster. So this is the name that I coined for my research purpose. This is called Arch Cluster, ARCH, artistic, rural, cultural, and heritage. So these are the business clusters, right, where you will find artistic works, right? There are so many artistic works that are there, and basically they are all rural in nature. Boutiques, rural in nature, they are mostly happen at their own house yards, at the back of their house. Culturally very sound, so it is there for, it speaks about our culture and heritage. It is there for thousands and thousands of years over, it's very, very traditional, right? Over the generations it is there. So there are a lot of clusters are the ones that binds the nation together through its diversity and supports many livelihoods across India. Due to changes in the society and the arrival of new millennium with its varied attractions and the importance it gives to various trade and art forms, artisans, their craft forms, and the entire livelihoods are fast vanishing. So that's the sad point. So though we are very rich from cultural and heritage point of view. There are a lot of changes that are happening in the society, right? A lot of attractions that we have today. More than attractions, we have a lot of distractions today. And we are giving our importance with something else. We are giving a lot of importance to money. We are giving a lot of importance to our title, our job, right? A lot of importance to our social status, right? So our importance has changed. So it has actually given to whatever the importance, and the importance it gives to various trade and art forms. There are so many art forms and trade forms which are not, say for example, terracotta, right? It is one of the art form. Okay, so of course the terracotta is there today, but not to the extent that it was there, right? So in Tamil Nadu we used to call Poikal Gudire, right? So that's a kind of a dance form, so which is fast vanishing today. There are not many people who are actually performing that. So you have the makers of veena, the makers of other music instruments like uh, veena, nadaswaram, right? So the people are, all of them are today more of fast vanishing. When you, whatever we talked about culture years back, today the sort of modernity that we want to bring in, right? They are all changing fast, and their craft forms. So we today we see all those craft forms only in khadi craft, right? So previously we used to see them everywhere, but we used to see them now more like kind of an antique figure is what we are looking at them. They're all fast vanishing. Many of the younger generation are migrating to urban areas, whether for whatever reasons, whether it is for insufficient business, right? They don't have sufficient business, which means they don't have sufficient money. So they are obviously migrating to urban areas for the want of money. The social stigma that has been attached, right? Everybody wants to say that they're all graduates, they're all engineers, they're all working in IT, okay? And they are all, lifestyle changes, right? That's a social stigma that has been attached. Or the powerful lure of modernism, right? The kind of dress that we wear, the kind of food that we have, the kind of travel that we are making, right? The kind of lifestyle that we are trying to, whatever we are cherishing. There is a change everywhere. Lifestyles are changing. There are a lot of societal changes happening, right? Many families and communities desert their traditional arts, so they don't want to be in their ancestral business, right? They want to desert them and livelihoods rather than learning and preserving it for generations to come. So whatever is there for generations today, there are no takers. For example, I went to this place called in Tamil Nadu. I went to this place near Madurai, near Kumbakonam, where they're actually making those dolls, right? So in India, there is something called we are celebrating Shivratri for 10 days, where you will see that exhibition of dolls in almost every home. So these doll makers who are there, right? So previously there used to be so many families in Kumbakonam, but today there's only 2 families that are there who are doing that, right? So I went there personally. I talked to those people, get to know what is happening, and people are not ready to do this, right? Because of their kind of social stigma. They're very happy saying themselves as even salesmen, and they want to go to the cities and they want to get used to this different lifestyle than this. So it's very saddening. So this has increased the urbanization and the resulting imbalance in the social and economic systems. The gap between haves and have-nots is widening by the day. So when you look at the rural India, it remains rural, right? So hardly there are any people who wants to remain there, except some landlords. But the younger generation, they want to move to the cities. There is a migration. They are all moving to the cities. Of course, they will come to their native place only maybe after they retire, maybe, once in a month or once in a blue moon for holidays, then they go back. That's what is happening today. So in the name of development, most of the concentration today is highly urban centric. Now, cities are slanted to be the catalyst of growth in the future. When you look at any city, right, whether it is Trichy, Madurai, Chennai, Salem, any city, now it is crowded. Most of the people who are there in the cities, they are all from the smaller towns and villages of Tamil Nadu. One fears the decay of villages, and therefore there is a need to visit the existing ground realities. So it's very, very urgent that we need to go back and visit the ground reality as what is happening to our age-old traditional heritage forms of businesses. This erosion of artisan livelihood is very unfortunate in a country like India, and particularly in a state like, say, Tamil Nadu, that is very proud of preserving its culture and various craft forms that are diverse, rich in history and religion. So this has actually caught my attention, and I want to do some sort of a research in space. So the craft in each state in India reflect the influence of different empires. So as all of us know, throughout the India, kings ruled. So there are different kings. Say in Tamil Nadu, we had Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Chalukyas, right? There are so many kings and kingdoms, right? Vijayanagara, right? In Andhra Pradesh, right? Vijayanagara, Marathas, okay? So there are so many, kings, so many different empires. Throughout centuries, crafts have been embedded as a culture and a tradition within rural communities. The crafts of India have been valued throughout the time. Of course, you all heard about this Malikapur and others, and who invaded India. They took whatever that we had, either in the form of gold or any of these ornaments and crafts, and everything is been, one is demolished, second it was taken away. And even today in British exhibitions, we have Indian products which are there. So the crafts of India have been valued throughout the time. Their existence today proves the efforts put into their preservation, right? Whether we preserve or not is the question. So there is a question of vanishing livelihoods today, which is deep rooted in the Indian heritage. So what happens when a talented folk arts dancer is forced to compete for opportunities with a fair, pretty dancers who are 1/3 of her age? What happens when the creator of a stunning work of art, a hand-woven sari, for example, is paid on the basis of cost of material plus labor? Right? Is it worth? It's a stunning art, hand-woven sari, but you are now looking at cost of the material plus the labor. The short answer is they want out. Their children want out. They don't want to be there, either in the folk art, dancing, or hand viewing this, weaving the sari. Whether it is insufficient money, skewed policies, or the powerful lure of cities, there are more families, communities in Tamil Nadu, of course, not only in Tamil Nadu, throughout India, I can say, deserting their traditional livelihoods than are learning it. Although not unique to Tamil Nadu, as I said, this erosion in livelihood is especially unfortunate in a state that is proud and at times chauvinistic of its culture and art forms, its cultivators and cattle breeders. Even when you look at cattle breeders today, the old time cattle are not available today, right? They are not available, right? We have only the modern, even the cattle. But the pride seems somewhat misplaced when its handloom weavers are offered a third over their monthly earnings to open and close college bus doors. So all these people who were working in the handlooms, they were doing all themselves. Now they left their job and they went to the nearby city or whatever, and they are working on a monthly earnings. And what work they are doing? They are opening and closing the college bus doors, right? That's the job that they have taken. And to serve food in engineering college canteens, where the average monthly income of the weaver is say 4,500. These people who are working or serving food in engineering college canteens, or the people who are opening and closing the college bus doors, they earn better, they earn more. So that is why they left their jobs. So their hereditary jobs, that is weaving masterpieces with the silk and cotton threads, only sank them like their looms in debt. The new jobs make them feel rich, so they are deserting their own hereditary jobs. I'll give you some examples. Like say 21-year-old Satish, right? He belongs to a place called Narsingapetai near Kumbakonam. His great grandfather introduced the craft of making nadaswarams to the village. His grandfather, so I hope all of you know what is nadaswaram. That's a musical instrument, his grandfather discovered a very popular variation of the instrument. His father is one of the greatest craftsmen in the country, and Satish's ambition is to drive a tourist van. He does not want to spend his time bent over a piece of ebony wood. That's almost impossible to source. Ebony wood itself is almost impossible to source today. And drill tiny holes in that, and it produces, if played with skill, it produces a divine music. So Satish wants to make money. Same case with, as I told you earlier, this Poikal Gudre, that is dummy horse dance, right? She can't anyway compete with those people who are 1/3 of her age and who are looking pretty and dancing modern dance, right? So all of these livelihoods are fast vanishing. Some are on the verge of even extinction, right? The skills and wisdom might not have taken, they don't have any takers among the younger lot, who would rather like to take up vocations that earn twice of their parents' monthly income for jobs that demand 1/10 the skill and the sophistication, right? Even without the skill or sophistication, you can today earn a lot of money. But all these age old, they need a lot of skills and a lot of sophistication, but there are no takers. So the series of vanishing livelihoods, that is including the story of the goldsmith that I'm going to tell you now, the goldsmith of Coimbatore, tries to see if an intervention is possible, if the state can sponsor or support a revival. It also makes a case for preserving these livelihoods, not only because they are beautiful or ancient, but also because they are central and vital to a way the life we would be a lot poorer without. So I thank this lady Aparna Karthikeyan. She wrote a very nice, a piece of article in the magazine called Fountain Ink. It's called Orphaned by the New Millennium. So I've sourced some of them from there. Now, as I said, let me take you to this story. I'm going to take you to two stories. So one is the story of goldsmiths in Coimbatore, and the second is the story of Swami Malai. So where you have these icons, divine icons, they are manufacturing there. So I will tell you two stories. So the story one, it talks about, as I said, Coimbatore, and I hope all of you know this place, Coimbatore, down south of Tamil Nadu. So the last decade has seen an explosion in the demand for gold. I'm talking about the story of a goldsmiths. When you look at the demand for gold today, all of us know the gold prices are going up and up and up over a period of time. Of course, there will also be a downtrend, but over a period of time, gold, and you have a lot of gold ornaments, and we know that there are a lot of huge players who are there in gold business today. And gold is one of the very important asset classes whenever we talk about investments point of view, right? So when you look at the explosion in the demand for gold, but the smiths or the goldsmiths who turned the yellow metal into works of art are leaving their dynastic vocation in thousands, right? So when we look at this gold, and today who are manufacturing this gold, these are the bigger factories manufacturing the gold. It is not about the smaller goldsmith, who will sit in their house and try to do that. They are not doing it today. Very, very minimal. So in 2010, 11 years back, there are about 1 lakh goldsmiths in Coimbatore. The city was and still is among the biggest gold processing centers in South Asia. Nearly 40% of the gold that's imported into India annually, which is pegged at around 600 tons just for jewelry by the World Gold Council, is processed in the south of India, so in the south of Tamil Nadu. Since 2010, 10,000 smiths have actually quit. What I am talking about is some 3-4 years back figure. Now it must be more. They have quit the trade. An average of 30 a day is quitting this. For many of them, jewelry making was the work done by the family over several generations. That's where we are talking about heritage and heritage management. There are many complex reasons for the steady and sharp decline. Customers, so this is what one of them were saying. So customers, they want new designs, is what one of them were saying, with 0% of waste and no making charges. None of us want to pay, right? Whenever you go to any of the gold shops, we will be ending up paying, wastage, making charge. But today we are moving towards 0% waste and no making charge at all. So the goldsmiths are simply unable to meet these expectations when they handcraft the jewelry the traditional way. The traditional way, when you do it, there is always a possibility of wastage and there is a making charge because you are doing them very finely with your hand, right? They can afford neither the reskilling required nor the machinery. So one is they cannot reskill themselves, right? You need to have some training programs which needs to retrain them of the newer methods of producing, which they are not afford to, right? Because otherwise they can't even eat. They need money. They have to do their job. If you want them to leave their job and come to the training course and training sessions by paying money, this is next to impossible for them, nor the machinery. So today, the jewelry making is happening through the machinery, but they are not afford to get the machinery. They don't have the money and they don't have the technical know-how, right? So they can't do that also. So the lack of machinery in particular has left many of them redundant, leading to a drop in the number of assured work days every month. So this in turn has hit their finances. So the goldsmiths were pushed to other jobs, to becoming salesmen and security guards. So their way of life is swiftly vanishing. So here it is not only the change of job for them, but when you look at the livelihood from heritage point of view, we are losing it. So according to World Gold Council, there has been a 400% rise in the rupee price, gold price over the last decade. So making charges and wastage, which are usually charged as a percentage of gold, are therefore resented. Nobody wants to pay it, right? They all want to reduce it. So this is a huge blow to the traditional goldsmith who incurs a much higher wasting of material, sometimes up to even 25% the weight of the ornament, which is depending on the complexity of the design in the art. So with the stiff and often cutthroat competition, now you have huge players, right? So especially from national jewelry chains, you have a lot of jewelry chains today, right? You have, say, Kalyan Jewelers, and just to name few, right? So you have Kumaran Jewelers, Kalyan Jewelers, right? You have a lot of gold players, right? Alukas, a lot of people. With big marketing muscle, it's difficult for an individual goldsmith to manage his affairs. So many smiths we know are security guards and construction workers. They get paid 8,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees per month. when they sat as smiths and waited, they got no work at all. So that's sad. So work shifted from independent workshops to factories. Today, we are talking about mega factories, smart factories, no, industry 4.0. We are talking about so many things, where one master smith supervises production of dye work jewelry. The workers, including the women now, so traditionally women were not there in the jewelry business. While historically 98% of the smiths were only men, only learn a part of the process. Like assembly line production is what now today it is happening. You cannot call them goldsmiths in the traditional sense. So a good smith doesn't have an area of specialization actually. He does only a part of the job. He would even handcrafts the delicate, precise iron tools and instruments needed to make the jewelry. The making charge for some of these pieces is 3 times that of a common or garden piece. But they say they doesn't half cover the labor that goes into the making. So their labor cost itself is huge. That's what they are trying to say. So many of them do not wish their livelihood on their children. So they do not want this livelihood on their children. So they are encouraging their children to quit and to look for some mainstream options. So one is from the parental point of view also, they are not having enough money. So they don't want their children to be there in the same trade. From the other side also, from the son or daughter's side also, younger generation, they do not want to go back to the work of their father because they can't earn. There's a social stigma, there is a lifestyle before them. So these are the reasons. Some of the family's skills may get passed on perhaps to the assistants, but it's unlikely that their passion can ever be. They won't be passionately doing that. So the trend of discounts, now we have discounts everywhere. The trend of discounts began with bigger retailers and wholesalers moved in for a slice of the greater India jewelry market. In 2013, FICCI estimated that 78% of the jewelry was sold through local and independent stores, 17% come from regional chains, 5% from the national chain. So you have these chains of stores who are actually running the show. Over the last 2 years, the shares of regional and national chains have growing fast. They've grown fast. All corporate jewelers, you have Tanishq, Tata, right? It's a corporate jewel, right? And you have GRT, it's also a corporate jewelry, right? You have a lot of corporate jewelers say they manufacture with 0% wastage. But how do they do it? How do we do it? Right? So we don't know what kind of investment and what sort of technology you need for those compliances is what these poor goldsmiths are saying. So an ordinary smith has probably been making a living out of his own home with 2 tables and a kitchen equipment. He might want the heat bits of gold between 925 degrees to 950 degrees to melt it. When there is no way to measure the temperature, he might end up overheating it sometimes. So which means that there is a lot of wastage. Where will he get the tools and technology to cut down this? Where is the money? Where is the access to finance? Who will finance them? Right? Who will train them? So if smiths are offered aid, help, it is 15% subsidy on tools and machines, which is basically a waiver of the tax. But where does he go in the first place for the 1 to 2 lakh needed to buy a machine, right? Where is the access to finance, right? He does not have it. So a smith's daily wage ranges from 500 to 1,000. Will he be in a position to pay the interest, repay the principal? Getting orders is difficult and repeat orders is near impossible. The average salary earned in a decade back was just 1.6 lakhs per annum in the jewelry sector, compared to the iron and steel manufacturing and motor vehicles and trailer manufacturing. So the jewelry trade that called for very high skill set is paid very, very poorly. So the problem is further compounded because the Smiths have not received a good education. A FICCI study estimated that 40 to 45% of the employees in jewelry fabrication, which includes Smiths, have education levels of below 10th standard. So the stress of a lack of education, poor finances, no work orders, they got so bad that it drove some Smiths to suicide. Right? Also, Smiths from Mumbai, Rajkot, Ahmedabad started making the jewelry that Coimbatore specialized in. Right? So today we are talking about GI, that is geographical identification. There's a GI Act. So where the Swami Malai icon can be done only at Swami Malai, though it is happening in other places. Kanchipuram silk sarees, you have a GI tag. That if it is a silk saree, you have a GI tag which says that it is made from Kanchipuram, right? So there is GI available. But it is not available throughout, not everywhere. So the local Smiths were therefore pushed into debt because others also trying to mimic it. There is also so much of a disenchantment that despite his skills, a Smith is unable to make a living. So it's not easy for the Smiths to change his occupations because he got used to it for generations. As assistant in the goldsmith shop would find it easier to transition, right? For assistant, it is much easier to find a job because technically he is unskilled. But a very skilled goldsmith will find it very, very difficult to change his occupation. He has worked very hard to get where he is, but when he feels the society itself does not support him, right? Where are we getting our products today from, right? We are all going to only the corporates and chains, right? To get the jewelry from. We are not getting the jewelry from the neighborhoods, right? Leave jewelry, any product for that matter. Whatever we are using it today, how many of us know that our money is going to which hands, whose hands? Whether it is an Indian product, whether this particular company is India-based company, right? Even for example, if you take soap, you have a lot of foreign players. You have Hindustan Unilever, right, which is ruling the entire FMCG market. It is not an Indian company, right? But we never bother as to what sort of a product that we are buying in, which business house from which it is coming, right? Whether it is from Godrej, whether it is from AVA, whether it is from Hindustan Unilever or Procter & Gamble or from ITC, right? We never bother. We never look at them. All we wanted is we wanted a product, and that product should be a very good product at the cheapest rate that is possible. That's the only thing that we are looking at. So we are not looking at these people, right? Even when you go to any of the vegetable shops, right? We are now going to the organized vegetable shops, organized fruit shops, right? All those supermarkets to buy our even vegetables, right? We forget the old lady who is selling the vegetables and fruits in our neighborhoods, right? Who will take care of them, right? They will soon vanish. So it's not actually easy for these guys to do. So it is very unfortunate that we don't have any professional counseling also for them. So a lot of them are actually committing suicide. So a lot of financial backing is needed to rehabilitate out of work Smiths. Who will come? Who will help? Where is access to finance? So when individual Smiths and independent jewelers are forced to compete in the same market as wholesale jewelers, they inevitably slash their prices. Wholesalers offer discounts and the Smiths' margins are squeezed. The jewelry business is run like a discount store. So if it is a struggle for a small or retail jeweler with access to banks and loans, it's an impossible hurdle for a small-time Smith who previously would have been invited to the homes of their customers, given the gold and the design and asked to make the ornament right there. But the art and beauty of shaping a jewel, like in the past, when grandmothers supervised the whole process, with a lump of gold becoming an ornament, is something even the jeweler does not see now. So it is fast changing. In the name of fashion, everything is changing. So there is also the burden of soaring gold prices that makes the initial investment hard, and where even a slight defect in the ornament becomes a huge setback for them. So smiths with little or no insurance, there is no micro insurance to them, there is no insurance. And the gold are also a prime target for thieves, right? Whatever the gold they are having, they don't know they will have it tomorrow morning. So there is a little that is romantic about being a goldsmith. Another constant issue plaguing them is their exposure to toxic material and metal fumes from indium, zinc, and low band cadmium. The damage is not visible to the eye, but there are many long-term health hazards. Who will provide safety for them? So these problems are exacerbated by the lack of awareness about the health hazards. In organized sectors, say steel and spinning mills, there is 0% contamination of environment. There have excellent, suction equipment. The workers are asked to wear shoes and gloves, but you cannot ask the goldsmith to wear the gloves, right? Then you can't make it. So affordable training institutes and a portal where independent smiths register themselves and list their skill sets, it is possible, is what has been suggested. Other industries have employment exchanges, but goldsmiths need it. Only then will the industry grow. It will bring revenue to the government. For the smiths themselves, will be a security net, right? So this is one story that I want to tell. Is there any reflections from your side? Anybody would like to comment anything, would like to say something on this? So it is very touchy for me when I read this, and I was trying to do some research on that, on this vanishing livelihoods. Are you ready for the next story? Or are there any reflections? Anybody would like to stop me and say something?
Sir, we shall have the QA session after the presentation.
Okay, no issues. Okay, so now then in that case, let me go to the second story that I would like to tell you today. So this is the story again from Tamil Nadu. So this is the case of metalware clusters in Tanjavur district, right? I hope you would have seen all of these in the temples. So this is a place which is called Swami Malai, and in this place, this has been made, right? And Tanjavur is having, of course, so many clusters. I have taken only 2 clusters. One is called Tanjavur art plate that you are seeing here. So this art place, you will see that in Khadi Craft and other places where it has given as gift. And the Swami Malai icon cluster is where all those idols are being chiseled and made. And that's what you are seeing in all the temples that we are seeing around. So the story is on them. So as I said, so this is about an arch cluster, that is artistic, rural, cultural, and heritage cluster of Swami Malai bronze icon cluster. Close to 500 artisanal units are there, which are representing around 200 to 250 families of artisans. They are making the metal idols in Tanjavur district of Tamil Nadu. They are called as sthapatis, who are very proficient in classical sculpting. They follow the techniques, grammar, metallurgy, and tools as specified in the ancient literature, which is called Shilpa and Agama Sastras. So Shilpa and Agama Sastras, these are the treatises, which is what they are following, as have been handed down to them from generation to generation for over hundreds of years. So the genealogy shows that this metalware art form is dating back to more than 1000 years. There are livelihood issues of next generation of artisans not joining or continuing their family or traditional profession that are guarded for generations together and are migrating to other places or professions due to varied reasons such as insufficient money, not a lucrative profession, powerful lure of cities, lifestyle, and other social changes. So as I've told you earlier, there are many such families or communities deserting their traditional livelihoods than learning it. Okay. So due to many business challenges apart from industrialization and globalization, and are facing constraints such as lack of trained manpower, access to finance is not there, IT infrastructure is not there, access to markets are not there. So there are a lot of management challenges that are there. So this, whatever the study that I have done, of course, I'll tell you as to what had happened in that. So this study actually can be replicated in many parts of the district, state and country as well, as many other trades apart from the ones listed in this district that are orphaned by the new millennium, like handmade gold jewelers of Coimbatore. I've just told you the story of that. Pottery, woodwork, textiles, sculpture, painting, metalwork, and more are in the verge of, or they're all in the verge of decline due to many business challenges apart from globalization and competition, as I said, such as manpower, access to finance, IT infrastructure, access to markets. They're all problems. So when you, so what we have done there is that, so we met the people. In this figure, you will see this gentleman with the shirt who is chiseling that idol, right? He's called Sri Kanta Stapati. Of course, there is a genealogy which is there in his office even today, which is actually dating back the entire thing to more than 1,000 years. Of course, he is one of the bigger players there. He's actually exporting all these things. And in most of the temples, whatever the idols that you see, they're all coming from this person and or this person's family. Like him, there are around 200 families who are doing there. So we went there, we stayed there, we spoke with them, we try to understand what is that they are doing, right? What are their problems? What could be done, right? So one of the problems that they said is access to finance is one of the problems, right? So not many banks are ready to fund them. Of course, for the big players like him, the bankers are giving because this guy is exporting. But when you look at any average stapati, right, they are not actually given any bank loan. So what happens is all these big stapatis over a period of time, they start work under the bigger ones, right, as assistants. So that is what is happening there. So one is that there is no access to finance for them. Second is that though there is access, these people are not using it because bankers are not basically extending their loan to them due to the same reasons that I have listed earlier. So these people are not that much educated, right? They are kind of backward, and there is some sort of a social stigma attached to it, and their scale of operation is very, very small, right? So the potential for them to sell more, or when you look at the markets, is not that much high. Even today, when you go to Kumbakonam, in all those vessel stores, you will find these sculptures, and they are now for weighing, right, 2 kg, 3 kg, 5 kg. Now they are being sold, right? Very, very, very unfortunate, right? So we spoke to them about their plight and what could be done to kind of revive it. Similarly, we went to Tanjavur, where this art plate is being done. So this is also kind of a work which has been there traditionally. It is also going from generation to generation. So we spoke to these people as well and try to find out what could be done, right? What could be the possible interventions that we can do? So that particular study said there are 7 interventions that are possible. Right? Number one, help build a common facility center. One is that you need to build a common facility center to them. So which means, so these people, you cannot have your own facility, right? So whenever you want to buy a machinery, all these people, they do not have money to buy the machinery individually. Instead, if there is something called as a CFC, right, common facility center, CFC, so that if the government gives whatever the machinery it should have in one common center, these people can come and use it, and they can pay as per their usage, right? Pay per use sort of it is possible. So of course, this common facility center is not only for the kind of machinery that they use. You can actually extend it even for anything like, say, procurement of raw materials. So if these people, if they have to procure the raw materials, for them the raw materials are what? The gold, right? The copper, gold, bronze, right? So these are all the raw materials, major raw materials, right? They call it as Aimpon Silaigal. So those 5 things that are there. So they need to they need to buy them. So instead of they buying them, which makes it costlier, if the CFC is going to buy them, maybe in bulk, so it is possible that CFC can get some discounts on that, some trade discount, because they are going to buy it on bulk. And then in turn, you can give this to these people at a much lower price. That is possible, right? So they can have some common office or administrative facilities, so they can actually showcase their products in this from different families, right? So they can have some common office where you have, say, internet facilities or IT infrastructure can be created. So they can use this IT infrastructure even to export, and they can actually learn also of newer designs and newer materials and newer ways of doing this. So there are a lot of things that are possible if they are going to have their common office and administrative facilities, right? Sometimes, you may have to give your, whatever is going to be your design. Maybe you may have to send it to your customer. But most often you cannot meet the customers on a daily basis. So which means that you can send an email attachment to them. You can just photo this, right? Get a good photo, and this photo can be sent through the mail. Of course, it's a very, very small thing, but for them it's very, very big thing, right? So if you have a common office or if you have some common administrative facilities, they can use this. Hosting an exhibition center and a sales counter is possible. So otherwise, what happens? They now give it to the nearby stores, Khadi Craft and other places, but they get paid only if the articles that they produce, they got sold. Suppose if it takes 6 months for the article to get sold, they don't get the money for 6 months. Only after it is getting sold, they will get the money, right? So that is the plight. So hosting an exhibition center and a sale counter is possible, right? You can provide employment for the needy and to house their society. So that is one possibility, right? If you have a common facility center. Second is to house their society means what? They have their own society, right? So kind of a cooperative society. So the society can also be there inside that common facilities center. So that is one possibility. The second possibility is build a marketing network. See, basically what the problem is. The problem is that they are not selling it or people are not buying it, right? Of course, they're ready to sell it. They are making it only to sell, but they really do not know where to go and sell. So they do not have that marketing, wizard. That is not there. Right? Today we are talking about digital marketing, internet marketing, right? Social media marketing, marketing through the Facebook, LinkedIn, right? Instagram, right? So we are talking about so many things today. Technology has evolved a lot. But what happens to these people who are sitting at a corner and without any facility of in IT, and they don't have any knowledge about them? So it is better to build some marketing network, right, to increase the demand. So whenever there is a demand, obviously these people can produce and give it to them. So increase the demand and to find new users for the produce across different geographies. So they need not limit themselves with Kumbakonam, Tanjavur, Tamil Nadu. They need not limit themselves geographically, right? So they can have their own digital presence. They can have their own web pages, which is possible, right? So that's the next intervention which is possible for them. Third intervention is help build an IT infrastructure. As I said, one is marketing through IT. Third is IT itself, like kind of a web portal for them, for the entire cluster. They can have their own payment gateway. They can have their own studio, right? So where they can shoot their products, connecting all the cluster participants through email. Maybe it is very simple to us, but not for them. Kind of a group emails, WhatsApp, right? So this is a simple IT infrastructure is what we are talking about. Yeah, right? We are not talking about huge infrastructures, IT infrastructures, like supercomputers and things like that. It's very, very small. Then the fourth one would be build a training center to train the cluster participants on various managerial inputs. See, all they know is only how to make the IDOL. That's all. Nothing else is that they know about the business. But there are a lot of business nuances that are there, which these people do not know. So if we can have a training center for them where we talk to them on technology, we talk to them on marketing, we talk to them on finance, right? How to access the finance, right? How to look at finances, right? How to manage, say, working capital, how to manage the relationship with the banker, how to manage the relationship with the supplier of raw materials, how to manage the relationship with the customers, right? IT infrastructure. So we can actually, and HR issues. Okay. So we can actually train them on all the functional areas of business, which will be very, very useful to them. So we can give them managerial inputs and on computing skills. So how to use the computers, how to use the cell phones, because today cell phone itself, you have everything into it, right? So how to use the cell phones for their business. The center can also train the potential candidates to become masters tapati. That is also possible, right? 4 interventions, 3 more to go. Fifth is help reviving the SHG model. So they have this SHG model, self-help group model. But the self-help group model is, though it is working and you have the bank linkage, but we need to still strengthen them. So reviving the SHG model to enhance and improve the living of cluster participants, right? So because all these self-help groups, it is not only about the credit, it is also about the savings, right? So you save periodically, you deposit all your savings, and whenever any of the cluster participants need money, then you give money from that deposit and you collect the interest and the principal repayment from them periodically, right? You can create JLGs, which are joint liability groups. They are called JLGs. We can create JLGs, joint liability groups. So which means that if somebody is not paying, you make the other also liable in the community. So this community pressure, this peer pressure will make the people to pay on time. So that is the idea. So you can revive the SHG model to enhance and improve the living of cluster participants. Then kind of a role, help restore the connection with possible stakeholders. See, when you look at stakeholders, there are very many stakeholders, right? Government is also a stakeholder, banker is a stakeholder, supplier is a stakeholder, customers are the stakeholders, right? So you have different stakeholders in the system. So we can actually restore the connection with all of them. So we can be in touch with all of them and hence create a social capital, right? So social capital is all about the connect networking that you have. So whenever you have a very strong networking, then it is much easier for you to operate. So social capital you create and strengthen the supply and value chains. So today we are talking about supply chain management, right? Value chain financing, right? Supply chain financing, right? There are so many things that we are talking today. All these things are possible when we could actually bring them together, bring the stakeholders together on a platform. Establishing and strengthening the linkages between banks and cluster actors. So cluster actors are basically the participants, cluster participants, basically the entrepreneurs, and basically the people who are working in these clusters. to enhance the access to finance and to facilitate exports. So you have to enhance the access to finance. So whenever the finance should be available, at that time it must be available at the cost that is manageable, right? At the time which is flexible, right? So you need to actually bring in all these factors for the entire cluster to go up. So to summarize, what I can tell you is that so it is not only about finance. Though I talked about access to finance, when we talk about these livelihoods which are fast vanishing, it is not only for the want of money or the capital. It is also for all other managerial issues like marketing, technology, the kind of supply chains that you have to have, and the sort of operations, right? So you and HR issues. So you need to have all those also, right, in order to do this, right? So I think it is somewhere around 4:30 if I'm right. So I think this is what that I can provide you. So if you have any questions, or need not be questions, or even if you want to say something on any of these things, you are most welcome. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, you may post your questions in the chat box. If you have any observations or questions, you may post it in the chat box. Sir, we have one question from the WhatsApp group. Is
Please.
there any separate institution established by state or central government to assist these artistic people?
No, then there are many very many institutional arrangements which are there. Say, for example, SIDBI is there for financing, right? So, or even for marketing, it is there. So I'm not saying that the institutional support is not there. Institutional support is there. But the problem here is that these people are actually working at a very, very small scale. That is what is actually creating problem for them. So if they come together, if all of them come together, then they may have a greater scale. So scalability is actual problem for them. I hope I have answered. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So is there any educational institution organized by the government, sir?
There are many educational institutions. Even you have this EDI, that is Entrepreneurship Development of India, which is also an education institution, and they are also doing. You have this, Gandhigram Rural Institute, so they are doing a lot of wonders. You have Gandhi Niketan, which is also doing a lot of wonders. So you have a lot of people who are actually doing a lot of grassroots works. Even IIM Ahmedabad, it is doing a lot of artists, a lot of grassroots works. They do, right? So I'm not saying we don't have. It is there, but looking at the amount of people who need these sort of help, right? So this is not enough. Though we have, this is not enough.
Sir, do they have any scope moving abroad so that the heritage of India can be maintained not only here as well as in abroad?
We are actually now today talking about reverse migration. We don't want to move out of their village. What you are saying is that you are taking this somewhere else. I could understand that, but still that village sort of it will be missed, right? So for the benefit of audience, I want to show one video with your permission.
Yes, sir.
1 minute, I'll try.
Yes.
Just see whether you could hear. You could hear the sound?
No, sir. No, sir.
You could not hear the sound?
No, sir. No, sir. It was not audible.
1 minute. I'll see. I don't know what to do. 1 minute, please. should I make any changes in this?
Sir, you will have to play the video, sir.
No, I am playing the video. Only thing is, could you see this JSW written here?
Yes.
Okay. Could you hear?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's what. So this audio, I just trying as to how do I
Sir, we are able to see only the list of videos you have, sir. Thumbnail.
oh, okay. One minute. I'll see whether I have to make any changes in this audio. Could you see this lady?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now could you hear?
Yes, sir.
Why? Nandaba is not asking for cash transfers. She's not asking for any subsidy.
Sir, the audio is not proper, sir.
Yeah, audio.
The audio is not proper.
Yeah, that's what I am also checking. Could you help me? What do I do to get a good audio? This one. You can't hear what she is talking?
We can hear, sir, but it is not proper, sir.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
So probably you can close this video and once again share the same video, sir.
Okay.
Before you could share, there is an option called as share audio.
1 minute. Kindly help me. Where do I go?
Share screen. Sir.
Huh?
Share screen.
Yeah, I go to share screen. So in that share screen, there is advanced sharing option. Should I go there?
Share
Okay.
sound at the bottom.
Okay.
Could you see that share sound?
Yeah, share sound. Yeah.
Please enable this.
Yeah. Thank you. Now kindly check and let me know. You can hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You are saying Kantabai. Kantabai is a weeder maker. She's a blacksmith. She came to me one day in a small village of Maharashtra, Maswad. She stays there on the road. She came and she said that I want to open a saving account. I went to all the banks, but banks are not opening my saving account. I was surprised. Why? Kantabai is not asking for cash transfers. She's not asking for any subsidy. She wants to save. And why the banks are not ready to open her account? I went with Kantabai, with the other banks, and found out. Banks said that Kantabai saves less than 5 rupees a day or less than 1 cent a day. Her account is not affordable. Then we thought, why not think of women like Kantabai and set up the bank?
कांताबाई अंबादास साळुंके मला 6 मुलं आणि 6 मुली आणि 5 मुलं वर कातराच्या अडकिती पुतळी बागाच्या सकाळी लावलं ना 7 वाजता तर 10 वाजेपर्यंत 20-25 का
कितने का बिकता है माँ?
10 रुपया 15 रुपया 12 रुपया
एक महीने में कितने बना लिए?
उसका पेट को 100-200 रुपये 55 दिखते 55 रखते महीने में मिलते। ऊपर के ऊपर बेखाने का पेट को खाने का
मानदेशीनं तुमच्यासाठी काय केलं?
ते काहीच केलं तर काय करायचं
कर्ज दिलं
कर्ज दिलंय की त्यांनी. 2 लेकाचे 2 लेकींचे लग्न केले आम्हाला चांगलीच वाटते द्या तरी आम्हाला फेडतो आम्ही बिचारीने अडवलं नाही आम्हाला कधी गेलं ना गेलं की लेकरांच्या अक्षराला उभा राहिले बिचारीने आम्हाला दिलं कर्ज ते
And hundreds and thousands of women in rural India, their bank accounts are not open. So we thought, why not start a bank? And I met women like Kantabai and started thinking of starting the bank. We applied for the banking license, went to Reserve Bank of India, gave the proposal. Most of our women who were promoting members of the bank, they were non-literate. So they had a thumb impression. Officers of Reserve Bank of India said, how can they issue a license to the bank whose promoting member are non-literate? License was rejected. I came back to my village. I cried. I talked to women like Kantabai and said that license was rejected. Women did not cry. They said, so what? From today, we'll start the classes of reading and writing. And the literacy classes were started from that night. In the same way, I used to get energy. After 6 months, we applied again. But I realized I am not used to rejections, but these women are used to, and so they didn't cry. So actually, they should come to Federal Reserve Bank of India and ask for the license. And so we went, and we had a meeting with DG, had taken an appointment. I did not know what these women are going to talk. These women, they told the officer, you rejected the license because we had a thumb impression, we were non-literate. When we were growing, schools were not there. So for our illiteracy, we are not responsible. But one thing, but these women, they challenged the officer and they said, tell us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license. Tell your officer to calculate the interest of principal amount, grab the calculator and see who can calculate faster. In 1997, Mandeshi was the first rural women bank started by women with no outside support, with no outside money. They mobilized the capital, they mobilized the saving, they took the risk of loan. But the real challenge starts now to handle with the bureaucrats of banking sector. Women said that we cannot come to the bank because we lose our working days if we come to the bank. So the challenge was that if women are not coming to the bank will go to them. And Mandeshi started a doorstep banking. Women used to do banking. They would do savings in morning and they will say, we want your agent to come in evening also and save. We want to save. We don't want to take money at home. So we started giving doorstep banking. What happened? Women used to bring huge heaps of passing books came to the bank because they said, we don't want to keep our passbook at our home. Can you imagine? Kantabai, women like Kantabai, whose health has not reached, government has not reached them with the help, no family planning, no education. Her children are not educated, but she knows that I don't want to keep my passbook at home because my savings will be disclosed and my husband will use it for alcohol. So we had thousands and thousands of passbooks and we said, no, we cannot go ahead like this. But these smart women made us to do a smart card. All our women are using this smart card and doing banking. One day, a woman who is a sheep and goat rearer, Kerabai, she came to the bank and she said that, I want to take a loan to buy a cell phone. Our smart managers felt that maybe she should not buy the cell phone because her son must be stubborn and asking for cell phone, and she will end up paying minutes. She said, no, 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 I want cell phone for me. And I asked her why. She said, you know what? I migrate from my village with my sheep and goat for 6 months. I will be out of the village, far away from my family with my husband. And my kids will be studying with my mother-in-law. And I want to be in touch with my kids, and I want a cell phone. And she's using cell phone. And you know what she told me? She told me, why don't you train us how to operate the cell phone? That was the time Mandishi started a business school for rural women. And we have a business school where women learn how to operate cell phone, how to operate calculators. And the challenge was that these women do not know to read and write, but they had so much confidence, they forced us to design the audiovisual courses. And the one thing which they forced us, which is first time in India we have done, and that is we started a radio for women. And this radio is operated by... So this radio is used for courses, but they also sing on the radio, give the poetry, music. So Mandishi has a very indigenous music and songs which are shared by rural women who have never been to the school. But there are challenges also. And the challenges are that one of our women, she was running a chai stall. And on Saturday evening, she was arrested by police because she was using domestic gas, which she's not supposed to, because it's subsidized. And so on Saturday evening, she was arrested. She was in 2 days in a custody. And police arrested her. We couldn't contact her because Sunday the bank was closed. So Sagarbai was arrested, and Sagarbai was in the judicial custody. We thought this woman who has set up a chai business after coming from the jail, she would just be broken up, nervous, frustrated. You know what she said? I'll use a commercial gas and show that I'll make a profit. Business schools from Yale and Harvard students come and study from Sagarbai how to get that energy and how to run the business. And because they come to learn from Sagarbai, because Sagarbai is a Deshi MBA, she's not from Harvard and Yale. I get energy a lot. But I would just like to say one thing. These are all my teachers. My teachers are not from school. These are my teachers. But this girl, she's not only a teacher, but she has given me a freedom. She came after her 5th grade was complete, and then she came to bank and she said, I want to go to high school and work for bank for 2 months in vacation. Why? You are just a young girl. She said, I want to go to high school. There's no bus. I want to buy a bicycle to go to school. Bank decided that bank will also provide bicycles for young girls to go to school. In 3 years, 10,000 girls bought the bicycle and they are riding on the bicycle for high school. This was a real freedom ride for me also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, we have one question from Grishwa Pradhan. Common people afraid to take loan from bank as cooperation from banking sectors are very negligible. How to overcome this situation?
Can you please repeat it? Common people
are afraid to take loan from bank as cooperation from banking sectors are very negligible. How to overcome this situation?
Yeah, so this is more of kind of a contract between you and the bank. See, the common people, they are not going to the bank, number one, because they don't have enough collateral. Bankers normally, they need collateral to give any sort of a loan. One is you don't have collateral. Second is that you don't have education, right? And these are some of the limitations. So the banker really do not know how to actually make a study of whether somebody is credit worthy or not. So that is a problem. When this problem is solved, maybe kind of due to technology today, that you have a lot of credit bureaus today. If this can be solved, then I think the common people also will get it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for the patience hearing. It's been 4:45.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So thank you, sir. It was such a wonderful session here. You beautifully started with the fundamentals of access to finance, showing the different dimensions of the access to finance and the beautiful flowchart of our population, pointing out the disability of people to get access to the finance. And you frequently spoke about the contribution of Jandan by the Prime Minister of India. And you also touched upon the barriers in access to finance. It was a beautiful connection between heritage and the access to finance you made. You gave a fundamentals for the first 40 minutes, which we could easily understand. And you also spoke about two beautiful stories of the Goldsmith and Art cluster, which was really inspiring. And as you told, it was so much, it has a great message in it, and it was really touching. Thank you, sir, for sharing this wonderful session and your expertise.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, dear participants, we come to the end of the day 1 here, and this is the end of the session, technical session 3. The attendance link